Hello and welcome to Strive Dialogues. A very good evening to everyone. नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल, प्रणाम। जैसा कि आप लोग जानते हैं, आज हम कनाडा और इंडिया के बीच में जो फेस ऑफ हो रहा है, वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस द यूएस एंगल टू इट इन द सेंस दैट what will be the impact of the Indo-Canadian face-off on the Indo-US relationship, because while with the Indo-Canadian relationship, there are limited implications, but with the Indo-US relationship, there are a lot of things which will get affected should this row become viral or it goes beyond control, uh, uh, as it can be seen from the number of actions which are taking place. आज ही इंडिया ने बताया है कनाडा को कि अपने 40 जो हैं डिप्लोमेट्स को वापस ले जाइए. They are beyond the strength authorized. So out of the 62 which they have, 40 are being told to go back by 10th October. What will be the implication of this? How will Canada react? How will the US react? इन सब को डिस्कस करने के लिए हमारे साथ आज हैं जनरल जनरल कक्कड़ सर.
Hello, good evening.
Sir, welcome to
Thank
the
you.
show. A very good evening to you, sir.
Thank you, Dushan. Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Sir,
Yeah.
as we all as we all know that we have discussed the Indo-Canadian issue in the past with Cleo also. Then you had discussed the same thing with Jan Shankar on the gunner shot. So by and large, the Indo-Canadian issues have been thrashed out by us. The implications are known to everyone. But I thought let's discuss today the impact on the Indo-US relationship. You are aware that about 128 billion is the trade between India and US, which is a huge. It's the largest partner of India. Earlier it used to be China, now it's India, US. Defense deals are almost 11% of our total procurements, which is again a very high figure. Third, it stands at the third place. Second is France, and first, of course, is Russia. Defense deals agreement, that's very crucial. We'll talk about it later in greater detail. Also, you'll find that because of this row, the Americans are put into a tight corner. They don't know what to do. They are coming up with statements which are kind of a wishy-washy. So to discuss all this, sir, we will start with your opening comments, and we will have a quick 30-minute discussion, and then thereafter question answer sessions. Over to you,
See,
sir.
Dushan, agar aap dekho, the US has got a border with Canada. And I mean, I was in Canada and I've understood the concept of the US-Canada relationship.
Correct.
Uske andar, the major issue is if you look at the automotive factories in the US, all parts are made in Canada, shipped across the border. For a
Correct.
large number of US concerns, the spare parts or part of the production is done in Canada, which is
That's
why जब हमारे farmers agitation चल रहा था and in Canada the truckers agitation began, Trudeau was forced to curb it down because it would have impacted Canada-US trade. So that is the US-Canada relation. Secondly, the US is also responsible for Canadian security.
yes.
That is part of their security agreement.
That's right.
The other part, the third factor is US, Canada, Mexico. They basically form North America.
Yeah,
US is the dominant partner. And
that's right.
in fact, the entire security of North America, mainly involving US, Canada, is on US soil, but jointly managed by both US and Canada. So US has got a major responsibility as far as Canada is concerned. It is not that the Canadian forces are of major help. Unke paas approximately 4 brigade strength. There's nothing much.
बिल्कुल.
The Navy is a bit stronger, but that's it. Okay. Now, as far as India is concerned, US desperately wants India because of the Indo-Pacific.
Sure.
Without India, China cannot be contained.
Correct.
Without India, a lot of other actions that the US is taking cannot go through.
Correct.
So, एक तरफ एक relationship है which has been endured for ages, that is the US-Canada. Second is a growing relationship with India, which US doesn't want to lose, whether it's trade, whether it's defense ties, whether it's working together in diplomacy, whether it is working together to meet common goals, common targets. Jaise Shankar said, I mean, it's a relationship that is going to the moon.
Correct.
So, in this sort of a situation, the US is definitely in a bind. भाई आप अगर कनाडा को सपोर्ट करो अगेंस्ट इंडिया, दैट विल बी द प्रॉब्लम. अगर आप इंडिया को सपोर्ट करो and ignore Canada, that is the opposite problem. So this is where the US scenario is currently existing.
इसमें मैं यहाँ पर एक आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा, क्योंकि ये एनवायरनमेंट में काफी घूम रहा है। वो ये है कि यूएस शायद डबल गेम भी खेल रहा है, क्योंकि ये देखा गया है कि जब G20 समिट हुआ तो उसमें जो रशिया यूक्रेन का जो वॉर था उसके ऊपर थोड़ा टोनिंग डाउन की गई स्टेटमेंट की, बेस्ड ऑन द इनिशिएटिव विद द इंडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर टुक. So probably that was not to the full liking of the US, and that is the reason why द फाइव आईज ने मिल करके ट्रूडो को कुछ इस तरह की फीडबैक दी, जिसको कि ट्रूडो वाज आल्सो नॉट वेरी वेल ट्रीटेड इन इंडिया. तो ये दो तीन चीजों को मिला करके ट्रूडो वाज incited to give that statement in the parliament, and that possibly is some kind of a hedging tactics by US to keep India also on the boil. Remember, the US ambassador to Pakistan also visited the Gilgit-Baltistan area, which is kind of a disputed area, and that also issue came up in the news media as some kind of a move against Indian policy of going to a disputed area, which is claimed by India as such. Do you think this angle is true, or it is just a made up issue or a narrative which has been tried to build up?
See, largely it is a made up narrative. Let's be clear. First, let's take the G20. The
Okay.
statement जो निकला. The
Correct.
statement was basically G7 as one side, Russia, China on the other. The toning down, अगर आप अमिताभ कांत के जितने इंटरव्यूज हैं, इंक्लूडिंग डे बिफोर yesterday in the Indian Express पढ़ोगे, the toning down was done to meet both side requirements because the Indian
Yeah,
aim was clear: we will issue a joint statement.
that's right.
इसके ऊपर भी both sides had an objection. That is both Russia, China on one side and the G7 on the other. And
Correct.
Amitabh Khan said that this is the final statement. अगर आप लोगों को कोई और opinion है, please raise it with our Prime Minister. The matter
Okay.
ended. Second, the raising by Justin Trudeau.
Hmm.
अगर आप देखो, the timing was for a different purpose. He
Okay.
went back from India, he got booted in Canada. What did you
Hmm.
achieve at the G20?
Nothing.
In the press conference in India, he was asked by a reporter what was China's contribution to the G20. Justin Trudeau was fumbling.
Okay.
Now, when he went through all of this, here he made a comment to the Prime Minister that India's interference. But you have to remember, अगर आप publicly कुछ comment दोगे, you have to have proof.
Yeah.
वो comment दिया है, आज तक there is no proof. Jaishankar made a comment 2 days back or a day back
Hmm.
that you give us proof, we'll have a look at it.
Correct.
But there is nothing coming in. Now, there is a problem here. Agar if the Five Eyes have managed to monitor Indian communication, let us say they have,
Yeah.
and they've got something where they suspect India is involved, वो
Okay.
communication monitoring illegal है. क्या आप
Correct.
illegal proof सामने रख के कह सकते हो? Secondly, is intelligence equal to evidence? Now, जब India used to give intelligence to Canada on the actions of Niger and the other terrorists, Canada's response was, "You're giving us intelligence. It is not evidence. It will not hold in court of law."
Correct.
Today, Canada has no evidence.
Yeah.
If it had evidence by now, it would have been out in the press all over the country. But there is no evidence. Thirdly,
Hmm.
agar if India was wrong and India had done something, there is no way कि हम रेक करते and we would continue the fight beyond, like we
Yeah.
have done today by asking another 40 diplomats to go.
Correct.
ये आप तभी करोगे when you know you're on the right and there can be no response to you.
Okay. So
So
I
अगर
think
आप look at it from all angles, India is playing its cards on the very right step.
okay. So I think that you've killed that point quite well. I was also kind of veering towards the fact कि ये शायद मेड अप नैरेटिव है, कुछ एक जस्टिफिकेशन देने की कोशिश की जा रही है टाइमिंग वगैरह के हिसाब से. The next question which comes to my mind is that when the Secretary of State and Mr. Jaishankar both gave a press conference in which both of them spoke slightly differently. The Secretary of State said that we have asked the Indian side to cooperate, etc., etc. The Foreign Minister of ours said that we have seen that of late Canada has become a very conducive, safe haven for providing shelter to terrorism. He didn't mention Canada by name, but he said there are countries which are doing that, and that is not acceptable to us as far as India is concerned. So there was some kind of a divergence in these two statements. I mean, in the statement of the two, there was no, I would say, वो बोलते हैं ना कि ना उगला बन रहा था ना निगला बन रहा था, उस तरह का कुछ स्टेटमेंट अमेरिका ने दिया, which gave a sign of some kind of a getting caught in a dilemma. Do you think this kind of a hesitation by the US will embolden the terrorists who are now in Canada, extending their influence in the US, and then thereafter becoming a problem as far as the similar kind of a problem which is happening in Canada? US में भी हो सकता है क्या? I mean, after all, the SF Six for Justice is based in US. So और वो वहां से कनाडा में प्रॉब्लम शुरू भी कर दिए, उसने डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन शुरू कर दिए हैं, सारे काउंसलेट्स के सामने हमारे वो खड़ा होकर के बैनर लगा रहा है. क्या ये अमेरिका में भी करेगा? थिंकिंग दैट नाउ दैट the Americans are little on the defensive on this, let's start doing it in California and other places where these guys have Seattle, California is जहाँ पे इनका influence ज़्यादा है, न्यू जर्सी वगैरह में. Your views on this?
See, firstly, the perception issue is simple. US would have suggested कि India must cooperate. इसके ऊपर they are not going beyond that. And Jaishankar's statement was very clear. We gave them our perception, and that's it. And we've said, you have any proof, give it to us. वहाँ मामला खत्म हुआ है. India is insisting, if you have something worthwhile, we will investigate. And that's it. So far, there has been nothing worthwhile. In fact, the pressure that we are building by removing 41 is to force them कि भैया हमारे पास ये है, आप कुछ करो. And then we tear that apart to shreds is where the situation appears to be going. You can't say because it hasn't reached there.
Yeah.
Secondly, as far as these people are concerned, the Sikhs for Justice, अगर आप देखो, yesterday outside the Indian embassy in London, 2 policemen थे, इनके 30-40 लोग थे. In the protest outside Ottawa or Vancouver, there were hardly anyone. Out of the 4.5 million Indian diaspora in the US, अगर वॉशिंगटन के बाहर 50, 60, 70, 80 लोग आते हैं outside the Indian High Commission, it means nothing. But there's a major factor that Dushant हमको याद रखना चाहिए. The Sikhs for Justice and their movement for a utopian Khalistan, which actually is all nankam, you have to realize it does not impact the nation जिसके अंदर वो रह रहे हैं. There is no threat to that nation as against an Islamic threat.
Yeah.
With the bargain that the nations concerned do not take Indian concerns very seriously.
Yes.
Because they are not impacted. Yes, when the other than now all the referendums mean nothing. वही बंदे चक्कर काटे जा रहे हैं. If you look at the proper videos of the referendum and the full video of it, you'll find the people are around the same. It has no value. It has no impact except a little bit of media coverage in India. वहाँ Canada में या Australia में तो वो media coverage भी नहीं होगा. But they don't impact the country concerned. There are no threat to that country because they're looking at India.
Okay.
So that country goes easy, which is why they get a break. Now you look at a simple statement by Dovell to Jack Sullivan. We are not targeting Pannun because we know he's a CIA agent. Where does that leave you? Then if Niger is meeting the Canadian intelligence guys twice a week or once a week, what does it tell you? Because since he's not threatening Canada, they're least concerned. If they can exploit him to put pressure on India, the US and Canada will. Canada intelligence is valueless without being involved with the US. If you look at this case only, surprisingly, in Niger case, the initial investigation and where finally it will land up is gangland warfare.
Yeah,
It started with gangland warfare. Jagmeet Singh, as also Panun, applied pressure on the Canadian government, claiming it to be an Indian involvement. That is how India came into play, and that is how Canada approached the US and Five Eyes.
correct.
So it is nothing to do in that line. That is why the US is very cautious in its statement. It is only saying there should be a cooperation so that the end is found.
Yeah. So,
There has not been a single sentence. We believe India is involved.
yeah, they're just saying we should cooperate. We should
That
cooperate.
is it. And that has
E-
a very different weightage.
Even their foreign office spokesperson spoke in Hindi and clarified that we are in constant touch with the Canadians, and we also with the Indians, and we are sure that something will be worked out. India is a
See,
very strong long
second,
term partner of India. So she was
Dushan,
trying
there is
to.
another sentence of Neera Tandon of yesterday or day before.
Uh-huh.
Neera Tandon, in the final farewell to Jaishankar before he returned from the US,
Mhm.
she gave the power of India in the US. She said, if you throw a stone at the White House, you will most likely hit an Indo American.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that is our presence there.
उनकी फॉरेन स्पोक्स पर्सन हिंदी में जवाब दिया है
They have.
दैट
I mean,
दैट
so today, our strength in the White House and in the governance of the US is massive.
तो
So,
मैं
therefore, they are aware of what our diaspora is and what Indians are.
तो मैं ये कहूँ कि पाकिस्तान कनाडा ने शायद अपने पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मार ली हो तो वो गलत नहीं होगा। तो यहाँ पे मुझे एक गालिब के शेर की याद आ गई है। तो गालिब ने कहा है अफ़सोस गालिब के बारे में लोगों ने कहा है कि गालिब की शायरी को लोग किस तरह से तोड़-मरोड़ के पेश कर रहे हैं। मैं भी उसी तरह तोड़-मरोड़ के पेश करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। अफ़सोस कि इस दौर में कुछ ऐसे भी हैं जो शेर की टाँग तोड़ते हैं, तो कोई कमर तोड़ता है, यानी शेर उठने के काबिल ही न रहे। मेरे ख्याल से कनाडा की हालत इस समय उसी तरह की हो गई है।
They don't have an answer.
दे डोंट हैव एन आंसर और उनको बैक ट्रैक करने का भी रास्ता नहीं मिल रहा है इस समय क्योंकि वहाँ की जो
And you see, और हम लोग प्रेशर के बाद प्रेशर डाल रहे हैं. Now,
बिल्कुल,
US is actually trying to find a via media.
करेक्ट,
But the pressure that we are applying, even the US is finding it difficult. अब यूएस क्या
बिल्कुल,
बोलेगा यार उसको कैंसिल करो द विड्रॉल ऑफ 40 डिप्लोमेट्स वो तो कह नहीं सकता
बिल्कुल,
एंड कनाडा हैज नो चॉइस बिकॉज हमने कहा यू डोंट विड्रॉ देम बाय 10th विल डिक्लेयर देम पर्सोना नॉन ग्रेटा
करेक्ट।
सो
और लोगों
प्रेशर
को
इज अप्लाइड
बिल्कुल जो यूएस का जो डिलेमा है वो हम इस बात से समझ सकते हैं कि सर जो जो डिफेंस डील हुई है वो कितनी स्ट्रांग और डीप डील है कि उसके उससे भी विड्रॉ करना इस समय यूएस के लिए ऑलमोस्ट इम्पॉसिबल है। तो मैं सिर्फ आप ही समझाइएगा इसको ऑडियंस को। मैं आपको सिर्फ वो कर रहा हूँ शेयर कर रहा हूँ। ये देखिए जो जो डिफेंस डील अभी जो लेटेस्ट हुई थी G20 के पहले इसमें कितनी चीजों पर इंडिया और यूएस का कोऑपरेशन हो रहा है। सबसे पहले तो देखिए पर्पस क्या है, कॉम्बैट इंटेलिजेंस सर्वेलेंस एंड रिकॉनेसेंस। रह क्या गया लड़ाई में इसके अलावा इस पे कोऑपरेशन होगा। दूसरा देखिए जेट इंजन शेयरिंग, तीसरा देखिए रिपेयर सर्विसिंग वाया मास्टरशिप रिपेयर एग्रीमेंट्स। कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स देखिए जनरल एटॉमिक्स जनरल जीई एरोस्पेस यूएस नेवी विद प्राइवेट लार्सन एंड टूब्रो एलएनटी शिपयार्ड। इसी तरह से अगर आप नीचे जाते जाएंगे F414 इंजन MQ9B, दीज आर बिग टिकट आइटम्स। इस पे क्या आप कमेंट करेंगे? क्या ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी मजबूरी है यूएस की कि अब वो भी पूरी तरह से इंडिया के साथ इतना जुड़ गया है, बियर हग हो गया है?
दुष्यंत यू मिसिंग आउट वन मेजर डील जब
या
हमने वो साइन किया था फॉर द एयरक्राफ्ट एयर इंडिया ने 100 आई थिंक आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी 200 300 एयरक्राफ्ट with with ये
बोइंग
इनके साथ, बोइंग के
बोइंग
साथ,
बोइंग के
that
साथ।
is the time Biden announced
हम्म,
that this one deal will create thousands and thousands of jobs across US who don't need to be engineers.
करेक्ट।
Now, these are the deals that are going to provide employment. Now, if this 400 aircraft deal, if India decides to even fiddle with one of these deals, you can see the economic impact. Today, why
आई
is
थिंक
the US rushing to India? Agar US says, I will not give you 414 engines, France is waiting. Ab
एब्सोल्युटली।
na bolo. Bas na bolo.
बिल्कुल
Now,
बिल्कुल द
everybody is waiting ki aap na bolo, we are rushing it. So,
करेक्ट।
US is actually in a bind. Today, we are in a state that India is actually in a position where you can't push it too much.
करेक्ट।
You can request India, you can suggest to India,
करेक्ट।
but the fact is, you can only do it अगर आपके पास proof है. You cannot accuse India without proof. And unluckily, that is just what Canada doesn't have. Proof which can be employed in a court of law. वो कनाडा के पास नहीं है. So that is where
बिल्कुल
things stand.
बिल्कुल। आई थिंक आज हम अपना डिस्कशन छोटा रखेंगे, क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के ऊपर ज़्यादा ध्यान देंगे। तो नेक्स्ट जो क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में आ रहा है, तो आधा घंटा तक वी हैव डिसाइडेड दैट वी विल डिस्कस द इंडो यूएस रिलेशनशिप। बाय एंड लार्ज वी हैव डिस्कस्ड bulk of the issues, but I would like to ask your final comments on a way out, because you see प्रॉब्लम्स तो सभी ने देख ली हैं। इंडो यूएस यूएस इज अंडर सम काइंड ऑफ अ कंस्ट्रेंट, इससे कैसे बाहर निकला जाए, कैसे इंडिया को बोले कि आप 40 डिप्लोमेट्स को वापस लें। सिमिलरली कनाडा डजंट नो हाउ टू गेट बैक। देन द सिक्स आर गिविंग देयर ओन प्रेशर ऑन द Trudeau government that look, we are because of us you are surviving. Those 25 MPs who are there in NDP are some kind of kingmakers as far as Trudeau is concerned. इससे बाहर आने का क्या रास्ता है? What do you think? How do you think that the it's a very difficult question, but you could give a try,
I
sir.
don't think, I think it is only time. Now, after this 40 are pulled out, India sits back, Canada sits back, lets things move.
Mhm.
Because Trudeau is unlikely to survive till 2025. Unlikely to survive.
Okay. Okay.
In Canada, I have seen the rate at which PMs change when there are issues.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he will survive that long remains a $1 million question.
Okay.
Possibly with that changeover, the case may end up.
Mm-hmm.
India has no option. We can't admit. We can't now pull back and say, get your 40 diplomats back because the opposition will tear the government apart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this issue will again get discussed between India and US. Abhi 2+2 dialogue ho raha hai November mein.
Hmm.
Nothing will happen on this issue. The issue is closed.
Okay.
Canada will not have proof. It will not raise it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we will find is a slow receding of the issue. With a change of government in Canada, Indian government is unlikely to change in 2024.
Hmm.
But with a change of government in Canada, you will find a change.
So, do you think there is a scope for backtrack diplomacy also at this stage? After all, there
Pardon?
are common friends. Backtrack diplomacy to get things
Yes,
going.
definitely. But you see, the major problem, or in fact, I would say a very sensible solution, which will be a very positive indicator, is in case Canada cracks down on the Khalistanis. If it
Okay.
begins the cracking down on Khalistanis, India will relent to a very, very large extent.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that is what I'm saying is Trudeau can't do it. Whoever replaces him will definitely do it because that is the only way to restore relationship.
Okay. I was allowing the audience to build a little more questions before we go for the question answer sessions. My last question to you is about double standards. और ये क्योंकि आज ही ये आया है और इसके पहले भी कई इंसिडेंट्स हुए हैं जहाँ पे कनाडा हैज shown double standards in its dealing dealing with when it is a problem of their own, then how do they deal with it, and when the problem is of somebody else, then how do they deal with it. एलॉन मस्क, आपको भी पता होगा, आप ट्विटर पे काफी एक्टिव रहते हैं। आज एलॉन मस्क ने उनको थोड़ा एक कैनेडियन गवर्नमेंट को वो किया है कि भाई आप रेगुलेटरीज कैसे निकाल सकते हो ऑन फ्री ब्रॉडकास्ट ऑफ on the media which is doing podcast from Canada, or they have said that they have to get registered, etc., take clearance, वगैरह। तो which is a direct attack on freedom of expression and speech, जो कि बेसिक ग्राउंड था कैनेडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर का इंडिया के अगेंस्ट बोलने के लिए कि भाई यू वी रेस्पेक्ट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन एटसेट्रा, एंड दैट इज व्हाई निजर वाज अलाउड टू डू what he did. So what do you have to say on this double standard of Trudeau? Because truckers strike में भी उसने ऐसा किया, जब ट्रकर स्ट्राइक हुई दबा के उनके पीछे पड़ा, लेकिन जब ये प्रोटेस्ट करते हैं तो कुछ नहीं करता वो।
That I told you, दुष्यंत, मैंने पहले ही बोला था कि the Khalistanis are no threat to Canada. So why should they bother? They're no threat to the US. So why should the US crack down on Pano?
So
As
how the
long as
podcasts
you
are,
do.
so how are the podcasts a threat to
Now, I'm
Canada? That is
coming.
what my point was.
See, the point is anything which criticizes Trudeau. आप चाहे protest ले लो. Even recently there was a case when his security people banged up people who were protesting against Trudeau.
Okay.
So anybody who protests or objects against Trudeau, he cracks down on them. The truckers' agitation was against Trudeau's vaccine policy, and he cracked down on them. The indigenous people are protesting the laying of a pipeline which Trudeau wants to do because he's looking at improving an area basically for electoral gains.
Yeah.
He's cracked down on them. So, jahan pe there is criticism of Trudeau or his policy, he cracks down and he claims that this is impacting the national economy. It is impacting the national policy. So, he is willing to crack down. But where it doesn't affect Canada directly, he ignores. And that is exactly what he's doing with the Khalistan movement. So,
Okay,
what
so I
double
think
standards? अब basically मेरे को तंग करेगा, it is a different ball game. दूसरों को तंग करेगा, it is freedom of speech, it is freedom of protest, it is everything possible.
तो हम फिर क्यों इनको खालिस्तान टेररिस्ट बोलते हैं? हम इनको बोलना चाहिए
We
कैनेडियन
don't.
टेररिस्ट। We
We
should say
don't.
they are Canadian. We said they are Canadian terrorists actually.
That's
They
it.
are, because on
They are
one hand
Canadian.
on
In
one
fact,
hand he says they are Canadian citizens. So we said
जो
okay.
मैंने आज निकाला, I mean, I just mentioned it that they are looking at an utopian Khalistan which doesn't exist. They are basically, they're basically residents of that country. We have nothing to do with them.
बिल्कुल, absolutely.
एक बार उनका
Sir,
OCI कार्ड्स कट गया तो they are not even dual Indian citizens. So they are
absolutely.
Canadians. They have to take a visa. They have to come to the Indian embassy there or the Indian consulate there to get a visa. वो उनको मिलेगा नहीं.
बिल्कुल। Sir, since we are still at the 30 minutes mark, last question: how do you explain this? This is not directly linked to it, but then it is Indo-US relationships are involved in this. How do you explain the visit of the envoy to the GB? That part got left out in our discussion earlier when I asked that question. A lot of people are taking out different meanings of this particular visit which he did. He spent almost a week there. Was it a US-China contestation, or was it also directed towards India?
No, I don't think it was directed towards India because see, Pakistan has got its own network with the US. पहली बात. Secondly, the visit is common. I mean, the US ambassador earlier once spent about 4 or 5 days or something like that in Arunachal. China jumped. It wasn't intended to be against China. Now, when we held the G20, that preliminary meeting there, the US party came in. And that's it. We held it in Ladakh, they came there. So, you see, these are not things that, you link it up politically because basically we claim the area. But I think we have not raised it if you look at it in a diplomatic manner because we take it as
we have kept quiet. We have
because
kept quiet.
that's it, because it is, we consider it to be a part of the duty of the ambassador there.
Yeah.
And Just ignore it. I mean, these are things that will happen. Now, Kal he'll come to Srinagar, Pakistan will jump. Not that
Actually,
we have
that's what
anything.
actually that's what he told, that we had a summit in G20 summit in
That's what I'm
Srinagar. We
saying.
went there.
And then we
So
no,
what is
the
there?
last
I mean,
ambassador made, I think, one or two visits to Arunachal. Every
yeah,
time China screamed, but did it make a difference?
correct.
So
That's what
that
I
is
said.
where
That's what I said. It could be in contestation to the US-China space
correct.
fighting in
Uh,
Pakistan more than what it was related to India as such. So, sir, that's it. I think finally, so your final comments for what do you call that prognosis? Do you see a fire going from Canada, US, UK, Netherlands, that belt? Do you see this fire going, or it will get stopped in between?
nahin, this will now die its
unlike
own.
the, unlike the farmers protest, which which
Nahin.
went this kind of a narrative building, which got picked up by various countries in the
Today,
European continent
today
as well as.
nobody is going to jump and stand with Canada. Be very
Mhm,
clear.
mhm,
New Zealand का मुंह नहीं खुला. Australia
mhm.
made nothing. After that, the Australian foreign minister and the Indian foreign minister met. There was no mention.
Correct.
UK एक शुरू में comment था, उसके बाद they've refused to mention anything. Right? The only one left has been the US. उसने भी अभी बोला, बड़ा हल्का हल्का बोला, because it has a जुम्मेवारी towards Canada. Today, frankly, Trudeau is alone fighting his battle. That's
so
it.
uh,
And he
so
also
will
knows he has no battle to fight.
so will Trudeau, will Canada feel the heat of a break in relations with India, and if
It's
so, in
already
what kind of
feeling the heat. You have to
no
realize one thing. I'll tell
I'm
you.
talking of specific impacts.
Yes, I'll give you the impact. The holiday season is just beginning.
Yeah.
About 4-5% of the Canadian population is Indian. A large percentage of them come to India. I'm not talking of only the SFJ people, but a lot of Indians settled in Canada
Mhm.
come back to India in this holiday season come winters.
Yeah.
Okay, now with the visa stopped, most of them are Canadian citizens.
Correct.
And with the visa stopped, there's going to be a major issue of getting back. The pressure is going to mount on Justin Trudeau's government.
Mhm.
They don't have the face to approach India to restart visas. Canada is still giving visas in Delhi.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Canada has given.
India has refused. And
Okay.
Jaishankar says, my diplomats feel unsafe, so we're not going to go with it. Now
Correct.
the pressure is going to mount there. We don't have so many Indians who go to Canada in winters.
Yeah. Bilkul.
I landed up there on the 1st of January
Mhm.
for my course, and I know what the weather conditions are.
Yeah.
The flights, if you go to the airport, the Canadian, Canada, India flights now are going to come jam packed
Yes.
because the holiday season is on in India.
Mm. Bilkul.
So you're going to have a lot of pressure building on Justin Trudeau, nothing on India.
Also,
And
I mean,
plus, now there is no FTA. FTA has been put on a stall.
I mean, what people were saying that the trade for 2023 would have, had this row not taken place,
Huh?
shot up to 11 billion. It was
That's
8
what.
billion to 11 billion. That's a huge
See,
amount.
now India's rice ban is going to hit. It's hit Canada and the US. India will be able to supply it to the US. Depends on Canada because we even put a ban on the export of basmati below $1,000 or $1,200 a quintal.
Yeah.
And we've said we will give it on case by case basis. The Indian community, the Chinese community, everybody there is banking on Indian rice. The
Yeah.
prices have already shot up. So the impact is there. There will be no FTA. There'll be a lot of other impact. Let's see
So
who
the
backs
final,
down.
so the final picture emerges that the Indo-US relations will remain intact. US will try to wriggle out of the situation in some form or the other. Canadians are getting isolated. They will start feeling the heat more and more. It's a matter of time when Trudeau does the turnaround, whether his government falls or whether there is a backtrack diplomacy, some arrangements are made, or some strict action is taken by the Canadian government against the terrorists who are harbored in Canada. I think that may set the ball rolling positively. With that, we'll move on to the question, sir. I hope that was the summing up of today's talk.
Yes, yes, absolute.
Unless you want to add something more to it, sir.
No, no, absolute.
So now let's go to the question, sir. Ask. We can see Anglo-Saxon playing their games with India from last 75 years. How we learned any? Have we learned any lessons? This is
We've
by.
now we've now been able to handle it beautifully. There
Okay,
is
I
nothing
think.
of the sort that they are able to cause to us. So we've been able to handle it. We're keeping them at their place. Today, India is no longer the India that it was 75 years ago. A lot has changed. Today, it's the Anglo Saxons who feel it's better to keep India at a distance and keep it as a friend rather than anything else.
भाई एंग्लो सैक्सन के बीच में दीवार बना दी है. अगर व्हाइट हाउस खोल के देखोगे तो व्हाइट हाउस के अंदर 75% स्टाफ वुड बी ऑफ दैट नेचर. व्हाट जन कक्कड़ सेड. You go to UK, the prime minister you all are aware of only. You go to
यूके,
various
आयरलैंड,
countries.
पोर्चुगल, नो नो, यूके, आयरलैंड, पोर्चुगल, तीन तो है ही है.
कहीं भी जाइए आप. आई थिंक द एंग्लो सैक्सन इज बीइंग managed well as of now, maybe by the strength of our diaspora. After all, luck also plays a lot. US interest in India containing China economy, knowledge economy, IT based economy here, interests are aligned. Where are the possible divergences?
Very few, because as far as we are concerned, we are equally interested in containing China economy, IT, knowledge economy. We're looking at containing it. So I
Okay.
don't, and in fact, we're looking at much more than what there is. We're looking at moving out dependency on China. So we're looking at far more. So it is a lot of divergence, a lot of convergence, and very, very little divergence actually. The
Thank
major divergence is we don't want military involvement. Yeah,
thank you
400 is okay.
Thank you, Bharat, for your contribution. We are grateful to you. Uh, let's go to the next question, which is asked. We can see increase in Bangladesh and Rohingya migration. Who is pushing illegal migration to India?
It is these people coming in on their own. There
Yeah,
is nobody who's
actually,
actually involved. These are our neighbors. It's
yeah.
not
So,
easy to stop. So we have to accept it and we have to handle it.
and we have to manage it basically. We have to
Basically.
manage. US interest
ये
in
तो वही
India.
है.
Yes,
वही
I
है.
think he repeated
हाँ,
it again.
हाँ.
Okay, there was some kind of a positive comment. Threadbare exposure of Canadian policy. US is saying, brown man, please don't do your politics in white countries. Back off.
I don't think it is any more valid because the brown man is more powerful than most of the white people.
Yeah.
There are
See,
possibly just the
the
brown and
Google.
yellow, in fact, that is the Chinese, Japanese, and Indians,
Yeah.
are the
The
three out of the top five nations. So
okay.
economic powers. So you can't do anything much. You have to just
Why
lump it.
Googles and the World Banks are all being controlled by the Browns. Okay.
Today, Indians control 23 of the top 500 S&P companies.
But
So
well, is Chinese interference in internal Canadian politics uh, had led him to take stance against India, which is backfired?
see,
Will India
currently there is an open hearing going on in Canada on the interference of China.
into their
The
internal matters?
interesting part, the interesting part is Jagmeet Singh of the NDF, जो ट्रूडो का supporter है, or the backer of Trudeau's government.
Hmm.
He has asked the open hearing to also include India. On what ground? He says the anti-Canada articles in the Indian press and in the Canadian press is India interfering in Canada's politics. So that must also be included.
Okay. I would also like to tell the audience, thank Kumar Gopalan for 500 contribution to Strive. We welcome his gesture, and we'll move forward to the next question.
ये हो गया.
ये हो गया. Okay. What is this? विनाश काले विपरीत बुद्धि. PM must be thinking like a fish who says ना मुंह खोलती ना फंदे में फंसती. I think
Leave it at that.
Okay, sir, do you think such things happening in other Western countries? Which country is preferable for further education abroad? Because higher education in India is very stressful and few good colleges. I think this is a
See,
genuine concern of the youth of
I
the
think
country.
I think a large number, I mean, Canada was being chosen as a nation for higher education not because of the quality of education, but
Yeah,
because it gave you permanent residency.
correct, correct.
The other nations which are trying to catch up and follow the same is New Zealand,
Yeah,
Australia, but definitely quality of education is far better in the US, but there PR becomes an issue.
PR
So,
and very costly and very costly.
so basically, I mean, the 4 5 nations where everyone go, where the people look to go to are UK, basically because English becomes a mainstay, is UK, Canada, US, Australia, and New Zealand.
Correct.
And the benefit of Australia, New Zealand, and Canada is you get PR. UK, that rule has changed. In US, it is equally difficult.
Yeah.
So this is where education gives it to you.
Jitendra Chauhan, sir, keeping the present relationship between India and Canada and India strong response, what will be the response of the UK in terms of India and the UK relationship?
India-UK relationship is going strong. UK has not interfered in any form. Even
And
in the recent protests, they did not even let them get across the road.
yeah, yeah,
They
absolutely.
contained them, and there were barely anybody there. It was just a drama for show. Uni ka video ban raha tha. Nobody else covered it anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Aditya Kulshrestha ask, why did the dustbin Trudeau give speech in Parliament? One, CIA pressure; two, Soros plan; three, deep state; four, Paki SI; five, Jagmeet pressure. I
Nay,
think it
it
would
was it was
it would be
actually only to cover himself to switch pressure from his
yeah,
failed visit to Delhi,
yeah,
where firstly the aircraft failed, which itself is a major embarrassment to a nation when the PM's aircraft fails like that.
yeah,
And the second was Canada's contribution was zero in the G20. He
yeah,
had no meeting with the Indian PM. He literally had no meeting with anybody. So to
yeah,
cover that failure, he let loose this. Otherwise, he should have waited.
yeah. And in any case, people consider him to be a slightly on the immature side as far as responses are concerned. I think that is a result of that, and now he doesn't know how to get out of it. Then we have this next question is opinion. India should sell common rice at the price of basmati. this is this is something which okay. Can you invite some scientists and industry experts that can enlighten us about semiconductor initiative? Uh, uh, Mr. R, we are getting Lieutenant General C.A. Krishnan, an expert in CA in rare earth material. He is busy till 12th of October. After that, he has promised that we are going to discuss rare earth as well as chip war between India and China, so, between China and the rest of the world. So wait for some time. We will get somebody on that. Keep a lookout for our flyers. Okay, C3S Atre, India, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all are Commonwealth countries. Besides India, the other three are dominions. USA apart, there is no support for Canada even in these other countries. True,
Absolute.
I think that's what
New
we said.
Zealand did not even bother to comment. Australia made a statement and finished off. UK just made a light statement. Nobody is bothered. Today, nations, please remember, today we only look at national interest.
Yeah,
That's it. You care a damn whether you're Dominion, whether you're whatever. It's just national interest.
absolutely. It's transactional and national interest. These two things. Ask General Kakkad sir, you're a Punjabi, please reflect the damage being done to Punjab due to alarming rate of immigration out of Punjab to Anglo-Saxon nations, destroying Punjab's future.
It is sad, but you see, the belief that's coming in is if you go abroad, you'll do better, you'll make more, you'll be able to send more. That doesn't work.
And
Survival abroad is
yeah,
very, very costly.
yeah,
The bargain, what happens is people live worse than what you live in India only
correct.
in order to save money to be sent
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
It's a
and
very
also
sad image. The
absolutely,
worst part is today, if you look, out of the entire Punjab crowd in Canada, which is massive, Punjabi crowd in Canada, really massive, those who are protesting are not even 0.001%.
Yeah.
But they get the limelight because of stupidity.
Okay. There are some things about anti-India articles coming from UK. They keep coming
Will
here.
always be. We have to
The,
tend to ignore the press.
the BBC every now and then will put out something. You know,
Something
they have
that'll keep coming.
they,
We have to accept it.
and I think by now we should get used to these articles.
Uh-huh.
They have nuisance value. Sir, Ashay Kholkar, sir, will USA give Bharat technology like they did with China, or they won't make same mistake again? This
There's a
is
lot of
related.
technology which is coming through the ICET, which has been cleared and that is being regularly monitored. Technology transfer is a lot. We've got to realize that we are not an authoritarian state,
Yeah,
and our relationship with the US, we need the US needs us. So it is something that is going to continue. There's immense convergence of views. So I think this is a fact. So it will
yeah.
not be the state of China. We're not competing with them.
How serious is the drug problem in Punjab, and how is it affecting Indo-Canadian relations?
The first and the foremost is the drug problem in Punjab is basically a park creation.
Yeah,
With the amount of drugs that are being caught, even yesterday there was a massive
yeah,
haul of drugs.
yeah,
And almost every second day we're going to get, we're catching hold of the drugs that are flowing in. And as far as Canada is concerned, we've got to realize that a lot of drugs move in from Punjab, not from Punjab, sorry, from Pakistan. They are moved in. One of the responsibility of the SFJ people there is drugs. And that is something which is being moved by ISI because that is what sponsors the movement and enables them to go through it. So that is something which is what we have been complaining to them. There's also a report that the fund that they are also sponsoring narco terrorism in Punjab, basically alongside the US, the ISI. So that link between the ISI and the SFJ is very well known,
yeah.
and that is something which will continue. It's not something which we'll be able to stop easily because Pakistan is the nearest, and they are the ones who are exploiting it.
Uh, Ask, are we going back to pre-World War One failed great game in Afghanistan, two Crimean War, three possible Japan, Sino, four Mexico, USA narco skirmish? I don't think so. But you
I
could
don't
give us a
think we're heading back, but you see, but what we are in today is there is no change in the Cold War.
yeah,
The first Cold War was between democracy and communism. It was containing communism. The second Cold War is containing authoritarianism. The nations remain the same:
yeah,
Russia, China, North Korea, Iran.
yeah,
Almost the same as in the first Cold War, except Iran then was a US ally and it had the Shah of Iran. So
yeah,
things, nothing much changes. The same story continues. You just change the terminology. The
yeah.
antagonists are the same.
Yeah. Uh, wh-
Punjabis have been arrested in Canada also in international drug crackdown. That is known. That's what I said. Huh?
Vijay Kumar asks, Sir, Khalistan is a project of West, which is said by Raw Chief Vikram Sood, which is mainly USA as lead. Then how do we tackle that? I feel the heart of Khalistan is at USA. Okay.
See, it is basically Panun is based in US. He's running his law firm there. He is protected. Uh, he's got his own security. The US is involved with him. Definitely the CIA is involved. But to a large extent, it is a product of the ISI. The US is definitely keeping him as a lever because he's no threat to the US. If something happens in like it happened in San Francisco, they will jump, but otherwise there is no threat. So these are things that will always continue getting exploited. मैंने बोला भी था talk के दौरान, if
Hmm.
Niger is meeting the Canadian intelligence once or twice a week,
बिल्कुल.
it has to be involved because of the US intelligence, the
Yeah.
CIA. That is how the background is.
Yeah.
And
So
everywhere where you get a chance to keep these people alive, कहीं ना कहीं काम आएगा. They don't cost anything. They're no threat. चलने दो.
So I think by and large we have covered all the questions today, since we had given a lot of time to question answers. So we will part the discussion today with a little lighter note. Comment or a question, whatever you may call it, when Canada opens the visa freedom to Indians from security forces? Well, this can not be answered by either General Kakkad or me or by you. I think only the policy makers are competent enough to answer this question. This is an unwritten
Shall we call
kind of.
it off?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, audience. Please
Thank
like,
you, Dushyant, and recover fast.
yeah,
Get
and
well
thanks.
soon.
Thank you, sir, and thanks, audience, for watching us, and also to the audience who is going to watch it later. Please like, subscribe to our channel. We are a young budding channel, and we are happy that all of you are supporting us with whatever you can. I think we will promise you some more interesting discussions. With that, we close the discussion today. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Jay.